QR code and plug in menti.com and actually put any questions in there. That's anonymous. And if you're actually at home or somewhere else, you're signing in online, if you could actually just, it's anonymous on the chat, actually, if you put in your questions. And then right at the end, what we'll do is we'll have a short Q&A at the end, and we'll try and answer as many questions as we can. But don't worry if we can't, because we are going to pull them all together and we'll work out some of the themes, and then we'll put this somewhere on our website so that people can actually have those resources afterwards. So that's really the main thing I need to say today. Don't think there's a fire alarm, but I think it's fairly clear. There's a, kind of an exit there to the left. We have to go across to where the car park is if there's any kind of fire or any kind of problem in the building. Toilets down here and that way as well. And there is a quiet room. I know it's quite busy today, a quiet room through that double door at the end as well, if people need to have some space. So welcome everybody and enjoy the afternoon. So the NAS, I think, are the first people to come through. Thanks, Terry.
Hello, everyone. It's quite a big gathering. My name is Terry Johnston. I'm Chair / Coordinator of our Cambridgeshire branch of National Autism.
Sorry, Terry, you're going to have to stand in the middle so that they can see you.
Sorry, Peter. Sorry, everybody. I'll start again. Would they have heard?
Yeah, I think that, yes.
Okay. Yes, so our branch, all the National Autistic Society branches are run by volunteers. So there'll be branches, we aim to have branches in most towns, most areas, most counties. However, it does depend, what we offer depends on how many volunteers we've got and what time the volunteers have got available. Most of the volunteers, certainly in our branch, are volunteers. We're all parents and or people on the spectrum themselves. I'm the only one available in the day, so you've got me today, because the other 4, we're down to 5 volunteers only now. The other 4 work full time and have their families to run as well. So that gives you some idea of, you know, the fact that we are fairly limited in our branch. We used to do more. We lost some volunteers during the last 2 to 3 years for other commitments and difficulties. So if anybody wants to volunteer with our branch, you are more than welcome to come and see me afterwards to talk about that. I'll be sitting in the far corner of our next room. I will have some leaflets, but I'm more than happy for you to come and ask any questions you want to ask about what we do. Essentially, we're down to 2 activities now per month. We run an adult social club for people 18 years and over. That happens in Cambridge on the 2nd and 4th Sunday of every month. We also have a parent / carer support group that meets at the Orchard Community Centre once a month. So the details of those activities are on our branch website, or you can come talk to me about it. So we used to run drop-ins in the county. I used to do those, but that stopped at the time the pandemic hit. And because of lack of volunteer time, we haven't got back to doing those at the moment. So what we have in the past done is engage in local campaigns. We were involved with trying to get our local MPs in this county to recognise the need for more support to enable autistic adults to gain employment. That's going back a few years now. But Daniel Seichner and Liz Fraser, isn't it, for East Anglia, they were both very supportive and flagged things up for the all-party parliamentary group on autism. So in the past, we've been able to be more involved and more active. Hopefully in the future we will be again. But there is an event coming up in May that Daniel Seichner is heading up, and that is an employment event. So I think you'll probably pick up information about that, and we will be representing on a panel there. Just to say, the National Autistic Society itself, if you go on the national website, you'll see all sorts of information. There is a directory there of information. You'll also see that they're doing all sorts of activities for this week, Autism Acceptance Week. Unfortunately, I'm not into bungee jumping or midnight marathons, so I won't be taking part in those. But there are lots of activities up and down the country going on. And yeah, if anybody's interested to know what kind of stuff they do, you can look at that. Have I got more time?
That's about right.
Oh, okay. Thank you, everybody online, and hopefully you'll put your questions through later. Thank you very much.
So next we've got the psychological skills service. You guys just want to position yourself so you can see yourself there.
Very exciting, isn't it?
No.
Right. Sorry? I will project. Okay, I will. We'll try and be really loud. Is that okay? So we'll just do some quick introductions, then I'll provide an overview of the psychological skills service, and then these guys will describe some of the interventions that we think are particularly relevant to the event today. So I'm Melanie Staley, and I'm a consultant clinical psychologist in the psychological skills service.
I'm Amy. I'm a clinical associate psychologist in the psychological skills service. I'm Megan, also a clinical associate psychologist in the psychological skills service.
And I'm Rachel. I'm team manager in psychological skills service in Portugal.
Which I'll now call PSS because I realise it's a very long word. So PSS was set up to try and fill gaps between primary and secondary care services. What we try and do is we try and give everyone who comes into the service a trauma-informed formulation that really tries to understand what someone's struggling with, why they're struggling with that, what they need in what order. And so we provide different levels of psychological therapy. We provide psychologically informed support work. We then have brief psychological interventions. There are 6 of those. One is coping with anxiety, one is managing low mood, graded exposure, coping with hearing voices, understanding and managing complex trauma, and acceptance and commitment therapy. And we offer them in 2 different versions. Sometimes they're structured, sometimes they are personalised for what the individual needs, and we'll combine those depending on what a person's struggling with. Then we have 5 group programmes: compassion focused therapy, and understanding and coping with complex trauma, acceptance and commitment therapy for persistent physical symptoms, a schema therapy group, and a group called Building on Me with ASD. And we also now have another group that we've added called the Sensory Connections group. And we offer some individual trauma therapy for people who really need to process early traumatic memories. So I'll pass you on to colleagues here to describe some of the groups in more detail.
So one of the groups that we deliver, as Melanie said, is the Building on Me with ASD group. So we know that there was a gap for people with autism in accessing services. So this group is a 16-session long group with 3 individual sessions attached to that as well, one at the beginning, one in the middle, one at the end. And within that group, there are people who have a diagnosis, and also people who are awaiting a diagnosis, because we know that can sometimes be a lengthy process. So the first part of the group looks at social communication, interaction skills, so learning skills to help with building relationships, maintaining relationships, where you can go to do that, and also looking at things like communication with facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, etc. The next part of the group looks at understanding emotions, how we can cope with different emotions, and also, I guess, in the context of autism, thinking about sort of sensory difficulties people might have within that as well. And then the final part of the group looks at problem solving, planning, and also sort of bringing that group to an end and connecting all together as well. So that's a brief whistle-stop tour of that group that we offer, which we think will be really relevant today.
So then that leads on to the sensory connections group, and that group we kind of we're going to pilot that. That's a new group that we're going to look at piloting. So to put into context, I'm an OT and a team manager in the service. So we recognised that actually some people were struggling to access some of the interventions because they didn't have the skills to be able to regulate and manage themselves effectively. So we thought that this group would be really helpful to equip people with the skills. So it's a 6-week intervention. face to face, and we're going to have that's going to be running in Peterborough. So we're going to have a group of up to 8 people in there, and again that's going to be our first group that we're going to deliver online, because all our other groups currently are virtual. So it's going to be essentially helping people to kind of use movement and kind of looking at kind of the physical experiences that they have, and looking at how to manage those a little bit better, and going through the different senses within the sessions, and creating a bit of an arousal ladder to help people to regulate and understand when they're hypo-aroused, when they're hyper-aroused, and what things would be helpful to do, what strategies would be useful, and to connect with others as well. So it's going to be quite exciting to have a group that will deliver face to face and offer that opportunity to connect with other people. So we're hoping that it goes well, and then that we can continue to offer that intervention on top of all of our other interventions. Yeah, so that's it. That's it from us. Any questions, let us know.
Thank you so much.
You.
So next we have Safe Soulmates.
Hello, everybody. I'm Vicky, and this is Lizzie. We're from Safe Soulmates, and we're a friendship organisation for neurodivergent and disabled adults. So we have groups in Huntingdon, Cambridge, Peterborough, and Ely. We have large groups, small groups, one-to-ones. We've got 200 people. Yeah, and it's worked really well. It helps people to feel a sense of belonging. Yeah, I'm going to pass over to Lizzie to talk a bit about the social events and how it's helped.
So Safe Soulmate does online socials on Zoom, and also out and about socials in large groups, one-on-one, or it's just a nice way to come together and make friends or relationships. Yeah, it's a nice way to have a belonging, and we can be ourselves. There's no judgment. We can, it's like one big family. We can play games, we go to the cinema, we go out meals, whatever. Like in the end, it's just a really nice community, like-minded people.
We've got lottery funding, so we have we've had 2 years, and in January got another 3 years lottery funding, so we can develop further and help even more people. We hope we have probably the biggest age group is between the ages of 18 and 40, but we're from 18 to 100. So anybody who feels lonely, socially isolated, like they want to get to know have a bit of a laugh, or be quiet and just observe, or just feel a sense of belonging, that you don't have to be stuck in your bedroom, you can come out and chat to people. But we do the online stuff, and that really helps as well. It helps for people to know that they can jump online, get to know people, and then maybe make the next step into the community. So yeah, a bit of everything. That's it really. Any questions?
So any questions? We've got, again, still got menti.com. This is the access code. We've got that in the chat just there, just with access online. So next we have Relate. Just position yourself. There you go. You're there. You're in the frame.
I hope you can hear me. Okay, my name's Annie Wimbush. I'm the Clinical Director of Relate Cambridgeshire, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about the new service that we've launched called the Relationship Counselling Service for Autistic Couples. But before I do that, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about Relate Cambridgeshire, because you may not have heard of us. So Relate as an organisation was launched as marriage guidance in 1938 to help people who were under pressure from modern life, apparently. Now, quite appropriately, on Valentine's Day in 1988, marriage guidance relaunched as Relate, just to kind of give a more a wider approach to the kind of work that we did with single people, same-sex couples, and cohabitating couples. So I think it's 83 years later, there's Relate centres across the UK, and Relate Cambridgeshire is one of those centres. And this year, Relate Cambridgeshire celebrates 78 years of supporting couples, individuals and families across the county. So you can tell that we do know a little bit about relationships. But one of the things that we realised in the last couple of years was that a number of people were coming to us who were either diagnosed with autism or perhaps their partner or themselves suspected that they were on the spectrum. And what we recognised was that the way that we were working with other couples wasn't necessarily helpful for these clients. And so I contacted Maxine Aston, who is a specialist in this field, and she has recently trained our counselling team to be more autism aware. And she's also helped us to develop slightly different ways of working with people where couples where one or both are on the spectrum. Now, one of the things that we've learned from that training is that autism doesn't affect couples in the same way. Doesn't affect them individually in the same way, or the dynamics between them. So the first thing that we try and do if a couple comes to see us is to try and understand how neurodiversity affects this particular couple and the dynamic between them. And just to give you an idea about how that might look in the counselling room, I thought I would just give you a brief outline, very brief outline of a couple that came to see us. And what they were telling us was that they had enormous difficulty managing trips out with their children or going on holiday. So the very first thing that the counsellor did with this particular couple, we'll call them Mike and Jill. Mike was not diagnosed, but he suspected that he was on the spectrum, and Jill actually agreed. But what they hadn't been able to understand or connect to ASC was the way in which Mike got so angry and agitated and stressed at these times when they were going on holiday or taking trips. So the first thing that the counsellor did was to try and explain to them that there was a link between a change in routine, which of course holidays and trips out are, stress, overload, and particularly maybe leading to meltdown. They hadn't understood that at all. So the second thing that the counsellor was able to do was to get them to complete a self-assessment stress scale. Now that helped Mike to begin to understand what his stress triggers were. It enabled Mike and Jill to understand that they might be able to plan differently for the trips out and the holidays. And Mike was increasingly able to monitor his stress levels and not necessarily always prevent meltdowns, but often he was able to do that. And that the family was then able to start going out for trips much more easily, which of course was a huge benefit, not just to the couple, but to the families. So I don't want to go on any more about that. I think it might give you an idea, just a brief idea of how we might work slightly differently, where a couple, one or both of them might be on the spectrum. But if you like to come and see us, we're in a stall at the back. We'll give you our contact details. Thank you.
So next up we have the Richmond Fellowship.
There we go.
Hello everyone, I am from the Richmond Fellowship. Nationally, we are a mental health charity. The Cambridgeshire and Bedfordshire service is an employment service. So we support individuals with ill mental health, to get into employment, to retain their work. It may be that individuals are unsure of how to ask for reasonable adjustments, or people are looking for part-time work or full-time work. We don't need a diagnosis for ill mental health. Someone may come in and say that they are stressed. We will still be able to take them and support them as someone who has a diagnosis of anxiety. To relate it to today, we do have a specific autism and Asperger's advisor. It's her birthday today, so I am filling in for her. But we, the same as mental health, we do take individuals. We don't need a diagnosis, which I think is really, really important, considering we know the struggle with diagnosis. So individuals may come to us and say they are seeking a diagnosis for ASD, or they do have one. Either way, we will be able to support. I have some really exciting news. We have just been awarded funding to have a partnership with the Psychological Wellbeing Service. So we will be able to, across Cambridgeshire, work with individuals who have been referred by PWS, which we currently do, but have that specific employment support as they are continuing the mental health support. That also means it's all under Richmond Fellowship, so it all stays the same. But we still are continuing self-referrals, other professional referrals such as GP. And one of the really, really exciting news is, with that funding, we do have a second ASD advisor that is being recruited in the next couple of months, which will hopefully figure out the waiting list a little bit. So we're really excited for that. And then another exciting bit of news is we are partnering with Class about training, about a new group, but I think there's more to come on that. So that's it from me. I'm at the back.
So next we have the Recovery College.
Oh, there we go.
Check for the back.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, hello everyone. So my name is Leah. I am the Lived Experience and Peer Support Coordinator for CPFT. So I work with RCE Wellbeing Hub, which is called, which stands for Recovery College East, and I'm here with my colleague Danica, who was joined this week. So we are a service that is open to everyone. We offer free courses around health and well-being to anyone over the age of 18. Our slogan is every mind, for every mind, everybody, everyone. I was very excited to be here today and be part of a space where we're celebrating autism. So as someone who is autistic, I feel like I've really found my place at CPFT. So we do offer 2 sessions that are centered around ASD. The first one is called Let's Talk About ASD, and this is a 60-minute session where we explore what ASD is and explore what it can be like and what the experience is like. And actually, the people who deliver that course do have autism as well. And our second course is called Living Well with Autism, and this is a 2-hour course, a 2-hour 15-minute course with a 15-minute break in the middle. And these courses are run both online and face-to-face. So we're really aware of accessibility, and we're working hard to be as inclusive as we can. Registration for every course is free and it's online, so there's no referral process. Everyone can do it themselves through the link. We do have some postcards if you come to our store, and we have a QR code which you can scan on your camera, which will take you to our website where you can register for different courses. Just checking I've not missed anything. Do you think I've missed anything? I feel like that's it. I feel like I should say more, but I think we've covered everything. So thank you. Really good to be here today.
Thank you very much. So next we have the Autism Research Centre.
Hi everyone, I'm Henry. I'm from the Autism Research Centre. I'm in the Communications and Community Engagement team. I'm sorry about the script, I wasn't meant to be giving this talk. We just have a real scientist, but they're unfortunately unable to attend. I hope you won't be offended with the script, but our research is focused on gaining a better understanding of autism and on improving the health and well-being of autistic people and their families. We have a broad research portfolio from basic science, such as looking at the structure of autistic people's brains, through to applied clinical research. So that may be looking at the physical and mental health of autistic people. I'm going to tell you very briefly about a couple of the projects we've been working on and let you know how you can get involved in our research. So one area of the focus we've had over the past few years has been on autistic people's experience in the criminal justice system. Most autistic people never experience being arrested or charged with a crime. However, we wanted to explore whether or not they are being treated fairly if this should occur. In our first study, we asked defence lawyers about autistic clients that they had represented in criminal law cases, and they reported to us that at least half of their clients were not treated as vulnerable adults, even though this is a requirement by law, and were not given the recognised appropriate adult, and only 25% of them were receiving any kind of reasonable adjustments throughout the justice process. When we asked autistic people themselves about these experiences, they gave us very similar results. Autistic people were not always given the support that they felt they needed, and they were less likely to feel able to cope with the situation. Obviously, it's very stressful being in the justice system, and this can lead to meltdowns and shutdowns, which in turn can hamper their ability to defend themselves. So this project highlights the need for further research to identify all barriers to fair justice and to generate actionable solutions to these issues. We're now working on projects to address this. A very different project we're doing is the Autism Chime project. Now, Chime is an acronym. It stands for Children's Improvisational Music Therapy Evaluation. And it's going to test whether improvisational music therapy is helpful for autistic children. This is one style of music therapy where you have therapists and a child, and they will spontaneously co-create music together, which creates opportunities for interactions and for expression. Our goal is to see whether this helps autistic children to improve their social and communication skills, and also to see if it has a positive effect on their emotional well-being. Our plan is to invite 200 autistic children to take part in this study. Research is important, but findings need to be translated into practice if they're going to have a real-world impact for autistic people. This is why we work closely with our charity partner, ACE, which is the Autism Centre of Excellence at Cambridge. ACE funds many of our research projects, including both of the examples I've just mentioned, and they, as well as funding world-class research, they work with partner organisations to bring evidence-based good practice to as many autistic people as possible. We're always looking for people to join our advisory panels who will help us to identify priority projects and who help us to ensure that our research activity is conducted in an autism-friendly way, respecting the dignity and rights of autistic people and promoting inclusion and well-being. If you're interested in joining this panel, please do come talk to me. We also have what we call CARD, which is the Cambridge Autism Research Database. And this is a group of volunteers who we can contact when we're looking for participants to help in our research. We ask CARD members to register some basic details and complete a few questionnaires online. And our database manager will then email CARD members once a month to tell them about projects which may be of interest to them and which they may be able to take part in. These might be projects we're doing at the ARC. Occasionally, we advertise projects from other research organisations as well. Some of these projects will involve coming to Cambridge. Many of them will be able to be completed online at autismresearchcentre.com, which is also where you can go to register your interest or indeed to find out more about our research. We hope this gives you a flavour of some of the activities we're undertaking at the ARC. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to come and chat with me after the presentations. Thank you.
So next we have the adult autism team.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth and I'm an autism support practitioner, and this is my colleague Rachel, who's a social worker. We work for the adults and autism team within adult social care for Cambridgeshire County Council.
And our role is to complete Care Act 2014 social care assessments to determine if someone has eligible care and support needs, and if they do, how best to meet those needs. But it's important to note that we're not healthcare practitioners, and so we can't provide behavioural support, sensory assessments, or mental health support. I thought I'd give a little insight into the team. At the top, we have Kate, who is our team manager, and it's basically her job to make sure we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing. And underneath Kate, we have 2 senior social workers. Their roles are to complete Care Act assessments and care and support plans alongside offering support to the other team members, and they also act as safeguarding leads. After that, we have our social workers, Rachel, and there are currently 4, and they complete Care Act assessments and support service users to find appropriate support where necessary. We've also got 3 adult support coordinators who complete a similar role to the social workers, but they also complete reviews of existing support plans to make sure everything's still running smoothly, and if not, implement any changes that are necessary. And they're also the ones that are responsible for the adults and autism team duty email and phone line. And last but by no means least, the autism support practitioners, which includes me. And our role is different to the rest of the team, but I will explain that more in a minute. There are 2 routes, depending on whether somebody is over or under the age of 18 to be referred to AAT. And if they're over the age of 18, you can contact the Customer Care Centre on 0345 045 5202. Once this is done, the individual's case will be sent to the Adult Early Help team, who will work with you and suggest preventative measures, as well as signposting to support and organisations that might be helpful. And they will gather information to ascertain whether an assessment is required. And during this process, they complete the Community Action Plan, or CAP. Once this is done, they send a request to AAT and we add them to the waiting list. Once this is received, Duty will contact them, let them know they're on the waiting list, and gather any more necessary information. Unfortunately, our waiting list is quite a long one, and so we'll send out letters once a quarter to make sure that you know you are still on our list and we've not forgotten about you. And we'll also say, you know, if anything in your life changes, give us a call and we can reassess sort of where you are on the list. When you're added to the list, you're given a priority, which is banded 1, 2, and 3, with 1 being the most urgent and 3 the least. For those under the age of 18 years old, referrals are only accepted with a confirmed autism diagnosis. And it's important to note that for a young person, they must consent to the referral. If they don't have capacity, we need to see a mental capacity act assessment to this effect and a best interest decision to refer for a social care assessment. And without those, we won't do it. So I'm going to hand over to Rachel to explain a little bit more about social care assessments.
Yeah, I just thought it might be helpful to talk a little bit more about what an adult social care assessment is and how we help young people, adults and their families to prepare for that. So the questions that we look at in the assessment process focus on a person's individual strengths, but we also look at their support needs, and we look in relation to the 3 broad areas really. It's daily life skills, relationships, and that might be family and friends, but also keeping safe. Main focus of an adult social care assessment is to consider the impact that being unable to meet or achieve a good outcome in any of those areas has on a person's well-being, and whether any additional support could help the person to achieve their desired goals. So if a person is eligible for support, then we look to create a support plan, like Elizabeth said, which identifies their needs, what support we might put in place to meet those needs. And sometimes it's possible to do that in one session. Sometimes we make multiple visits. We meet people in person, we talk to people on the phone, we will use Teams, we'll also communicate via email. Whatever works for the person best is what we're going to go with. In addition to the information that Elizabeth has already shared about our processes, I thought there were a couple of other things that was really important to highlight. So support is funded very differently in adult social care, as I'm sure quite a lot of people will be aware of. And it's very different to children's social care in that every adult who is assessed must also have a financial assessment, and that looks at whether they might need to contribute towards their support that's put in place if it's a funded support. That involves completing some quite lengthy forms that come out from our financial assessment team, and so we often support families and young people to fill in those forms as well. And finally, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but if there's a child or young person under 18 who's currently receiving support from the Disabled Children's Services, then those professionals refer directly to us before the young person turns 18 with consent from the young person and the adult. So if that's something that hasn't happened and you are being supported, or you know people who are being supported by Disabled Children's Services, please ask them, talk to them about adults.
So before we finish, I'll just quickly outline the autism support practitioner role. It's quite a unique role, and we work with people with an autism diagnosis for up to 8 sessions on a range of specific outcome-focused goals. And our aim is to support people in the short term whilst promoting and preserving their independence. We support people with a range of matters through signposting, guiding through tasks, and where appropriate, we will make referrals on their behalf with their consent. And this can be on matters such as employment, volunteering, developing social skills, making friends, applying for benefits and housing, transition support and travel training. And we also work with autistic parents to support them to process information from professionals concerning their children's welfare, as well as providing individualised post-diagnostic support to those with a recent diagnosis to aid them in understanding how their diagnosis affects them and the next steps to take. And people with autism can refer to an ASP through the customer care centre that I mentioned earlier, or with consent, other professionals, family members and friends can refer on their behalf. Thank you.
So next we have Voiceability.
I want to apologize because I have a really croaky voice today. It's not coffee, so don't worry about that. It's just a croaky voice. And also I get very nervous for usually the first 5 minutes. So that's me sorted now, isn't it? So I work for Voiceability. I'm an advocate. We hold the contracts for advocacy, most of the contracts for advocacy in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. So that means that we do 6, 7 different types of advocacy. That includes carers advocacy as well. We support people above 18 years old, and we work with people who are deemed vulnerable adults. So that includes autism. And that's where the link is for us to be here today. So you might be wondering, what are those 6 types of advocacy really? Sounds like a big number. Actually, it's not such a big number if you think about things that you have heard in the news and that you read in the newspaper. So we've got the Mental Health Act, there's advocacy role there. We've got the Mental Capacity Act, there's advocacy roles there. We've got the Care Act, there's an advocacy role there. And then we've got DOLS, which is the Deprivation of Liberty Safeguards. There's advocacy roles in there as well. Also, we do general advocacy, and that's where we will include carers advocacy as well, when the person cares for someone who is deemed to be a vulnerable adult. I think this is quite succinctly, and it's a small summary, but I think it says pretty much everything that I wanted to say today. If you want more details, please come and visit our table, and we'll have some leaflets and we can explain a bit better.
Thank you very much. So probably a good time to remind everybody about questions at the end, just to send them through to menti.com with the code there. We've got that written in the chat for people who are online, and we've got some questions coming through now, and if they're directed towards specific organisations, just let us know, and then we can pick those people out at the end to come forward and answer those questions. So next we have Papworth Trust, the Papworth Trust.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Luke. I'm an employment and wellbeing advisor from Papworth Trust. If you've not heard of Papworth Trust, we're a disability charity that's been in the Cambridgeshire local community for the last 106 years. You might have heard of Papworth Hospital, but we sold them the hospital, so they've stolen their name from us. Papworth Trust offers support to disabled and neurodiverse people in the community. Excuse me, I'm going to read off my phone. Firstly, I'd like to talk about our Opportunities Without Limits services, which are day services which exist to ensure that disabled people acquire their independent living skills, live healthy lives, and reduce their social isolation. We have services in Great Avington, Cambridge, Huntingdon, and Ipswich. And we also run sessions in the community that people can attend there. In our Cambridge Centre, we also have our Owl Bikes service, which is an operational commercial bike store with workshop. And out of that, we also run an employment programme. We offer housing and care services also, but really I'm here to talk to you about our employment services today. So we have 3 programs in the area. 2 of these are bespoke programs, mine being First Steps to Success, where I offer one-to-one support for neurodiverse people across the whole county. And my colleague who covers Huntingdonshire and Peterborough also does the same. The kind of support I offer is signposting to employments or training opportunities, helping set up voluntary placements, providing one-to-one wellbeing and confidence support and advice, and really anything else that they need help with and signposting to. Our other bespoke program works out of our Owl Bike store, and that's called Routeways to Work. So Routeways is a project that combines work experience in our commercial bike shop and provides employment support and guidance from my lovely colleague Fleur. Finally, we are also the sole provider in the area for the Department for Work and Pensions Work and Health programme. So if you ever find yourself signposted to them, you may end up coming to our centre in Cambridge or Peterborough for that. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And next we have Ixion.
Oh, yes.
My name is Victoria and I am here with Ixion. We are part of the Shaw Trust, which is a charity based that deals mainly with people with disabilities, neurodiversity. Particularly the Ixion part of the contract deals with short courses and employability and skills for people from a range of disabilities and backgrounds. We are in the Cambridge and Peterborough region. We do lots of different courses in nationwide as well, so there's lots of things that you can look into, but we have our contracts are tailored so that if you come to us and you feel like you need any extra help, we are from the start, we make sure that you're comfortable in the course that you're running. Our tutors are fantastic at making sure you're able to do all your coursework, and even if you're dyslexic, for example, they will take your information and they will write it down for you, so you don't need to write. We also have learning support mentors that do these online for you. So if you need some extra help, they are all ready, willing to step in as well. And we also have progression coaches at the end. So if you would like some further training or help in getting into work or into work experience, they'll be helping you as well that way. Yeah, so that's really, it's much less than 5 minutes. Look, very, very. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So next we have Hey Cambridge.
Lovely. Hi, my name's Jack. I'm a digital and community engagement coordinator. Called Beth's just over there, and we're a project called How Are You Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. The project initially started in Peterborough. Peterborough had extra funding for mental health to pilot certain things, and we were kind of part of that pilot. The project came about because they did some sessions with people with lived experience of mental health challenges, people working in the field, and they kind of asked, well, what is mental health care? And the people there didn't just say, well, mental health care is talking to my GP and talking to a counsellor. People said that they were doing things like going to coffee mornings, they were going for walks in the park, they were parts of various groups and activities that they considered mental health care. Then when they asked them the question of, well, where do you find out about these things? They kind of then looked at the local directories that were there and what was about to see, well, do we need to create anything else, or is what there fit for purpose? And while there's some excellent directories out there, I think what the people felt was some of those directories missed some of the super local things that were going on in people's communities. So those small groups that maybe didn't have a web presence, they didn't have a Facebook page, and you only really knew about it if you knew somebody who went or you saw the poster. So the super local things were, you know, sometimes missing. Some of the directories were quite text heavy, and for some people, you know, a time, a date and a venue just wasn't quite enough to kind of get them through the door. So those directories kind of missed things that were maybe improved access. So that's where the concept of the first website came from, the How Are You Peterborough, and it was all about showcasing local things that people could do for the mental well-being, but as well, hopefully improving access through the content. So with the activity pages, what we tried to do were include introduction videos of people introducing themselves. We had, you know, photos of the activities and information about, you know, what to expect, what is it going to be like there. So all those anxieties that we have as adults going to somewhere new for the first time, we tried to address through some of the content. So the project started, then they had a bit more funding from Public Health England, and that allowed us to roll out to all of the other 5 districts. So we're a team now, I think, of about 12 people working full and part-time. There is a digital space for each of the districts in Cambridgeshire. We've got some specialist engagement coordinators over in Peterborough that help us engage ethnic minority communities. And yeah, it's showcasing all things local that are good for people's well-being. You know, various different activities that people can do that are going in, but are also support services that can access. Kind of behind the scenes, we also do a lot of work supporting other professionals, so things like social prescribing link workers in GP practices, working with kind of local councils. So where we are finding out about community assets, that we can actually share them, and we can actually tell other teams about things that are going on, because there's lots of services that want to connect their service users to things going on, but they haven't got the time and the capacity to kind of to go out and, you know, look at what's going on. So that's where you know, we can provide support to you know, both services, but also those community groups as well, to let them know that actually there's a resource that you can use to find support for your members, and then if they are getting a bit stuck, they can also contact us, and we can do a little searching around for activities and services that their groups might want.
Thank you very much. So, and now we have enabling independence.
Okay, right. I'll be very quick because I hate talking. So my name's Sarah Hillier. I'm from Enabling Independence. Enabling Independence is a very small local charity set up in Peterborough by service users and for service users in response to a perceived need in the Peterborough area. We work with people with autism and people with learning disability and people with autism and learning disability. The main focus of the work we do is around helping people to access benefits. People can self-refer in, they can be referred by family or friends or by other professional organisations if they think it's appropriate, meets a need. We also provide support with managing bills, money generally, anything that an individual identifies as being a difficulty with interfacing with bits of the state or other organisations. So a large amount of work is around supporting parents who have a diagnosis themselves, either of autism or learning disability. So it's the parent that has the diagnosis who might be finding it difficult to liaise with school, access diagnostic services for their children, anything like that. We have a support group for parents that runs term times on Monday mornings in Peterborough, where parents can meet other parents going through similar situations. Sometimes that may involve social services being involved with the family, and we can provide support with that as well. So very much under 5 minutes, I think.
Thank you very much for everybody who's come from other organisations to come speak to us today. What I'm going to ask now is that some of my colleagues come and join us so we can talk about what CLAS do, some of the services we offer. So Andrea's going to speak first about our post-diagnostic.
Okay. Hello everybody, my name's Andrea. I'm a clinical psychologist in the CLAS clinic, which is the Adult Autism Diagnostic Service in Cambridgeshire. And I'm here with some of my colleagues to tell you a bit about our post-diagnostic support. So until quite recently, we were just a diagnostic service, but in 2021, we had some funding to expand our service a bit and to provide some post-diagnostic support. So over the last 2 years, we have been trying to develop that really. And we're really proud to have developed some group intervention, some psychoeducation, along with service users that have attended that. So we've got to the point where what we provide now, I think, has been co-produced with people who've been through the group with us. So what I'll talk about that bit, the group that we offer, and then my colleagues will talk about some of the other things that we do. So we now run a 6-week course for people who have had their autism diagnosis at our service. At this point, it's just for people that have been through our service. And they are offered that at some point within about 6 months after their diagnosis, depending on when they're ready to join that. And I know there's people here today who've been through our groups. We started off with a couple of taster sessions. Actually, before that, we started off asking people locally. So we met with our the National Autistic Society group in Cambridge to find out what they think we should be offering in this group. And then we looked at the research, and we connected with a group of researchers in York who'd looked at specialist autism teams across the country, and they gave us some ideas about things we should be including. We ran some taster sessions at the end of 2021, and then we ran our first 6-week course in February, March last year. We then ran 8 more courses last year, and we're now running many more this year. So we have a course that runs in the morning, and we have a course that runs in the evening, and we have a topic each week, We have some discussion about that topic, and we encourage people to talk to each other, talk to us, ask questions, and we share lots of resources. Some of those resources are about the services that you've heard from today. So the topics that we cover are, in the first week, we talk about making sense of your diagnosis and who people have told and how they've told other people about their diagnosis. Then we talk about social and communication differences, information processing and thinking differences, sensory differences. We have a week on managing emotions and mental health challenges, and then we have a session on asking for reasonable adjustments in different settings. So that gives you an idea of the kind of things that we cover. And this year we're developing it even more. So we're starting to produce, I must say that it's co-produced because out of our group, some individuals wanted to stay in contact with us, and so we were able to develop a PPI group, which Ben will talk about in a minute, but they very much helped us to review the course materials, to change the course materials. One of the things they wanted us to do was to ask people, local people, to record themselves, to provide some videos about their experiences and what they found helpful after their diagnosis. And we now have 3 great videos from local people who volunteered to do that for us. And yeah, we've just got lots more ideas this year about how we can make it, we can provide these kind of resources in different ways. I'll stop talking. I'll keep going on. Catch you over.
Yes. Mine right this. Hi, so I'm Susanna. I'm a professional therapist, and I've been with the class now for about 1.5 years. So this post is part of the kind of extra commissioning for post-diagnostic support. Had their diagnosis. I'm also trained in sensory integration, so I've contributed to the sensory part of the group. But I also see people individually when there's issues around occupation, where how autism is kind of impacting in terms of day-to-day functioning. So to give you examples of the kind of things I might do, it might be helping people to think about how autism is impacting their work, what kind of reasonable adjustments they might need. I can write reports to kind of to support that. Sometimes people need that extra bit of support. I've done things like making birth plans for people. So we've had people who've had a diagnosis while they've been pregnant, and liaising with midwives to think about what adjustments might be needed in terms of how that birth experience goes for them. In terms of sensory processing, I do sensory assessments, and I think a lot of people that have diagnosis with us realise that the way that they process sensory information actually impacts massively day to day. So I can spend time kind of looking at that, thinking about strategies to manage, thinking about how to manage in environments that are tricky, whether that's work or shops, public transport. Parenting is another thing that might come up in terms of just thinking about strategies to manage those sort of things at home. I'm only part-time, so at the moment there is an issue around just demand and how much resources we've got. So we're also thinking about groups, so more practical OT based type groups. So I've already trialed a sensory group, which went very well, and I'm hoping to continue to do that. And as was mentioned earlier, we're looking at doing a vocational group, so a more practical group around work-related skills, which I'll be doing with Richmond Fellowship. So that should be soon, which will be really exciting to use both our skills together. So it's still developing, isn't it? The whole kind of post-diagnostic.
Sounds neat. Hi everyone, I'm Katie. I'm an assistant psychologist in the class clinic, and I'm just going to tell you a bit about our library that we have at the Church of Sophia Autism Centre. So the library provides another source of post-diagnostic support. So it's open to class service users, their carers, relatives,
family members, and it's also open to CPFT staff as well. So anyone's welcome to come along and have a look. So the library's been supported amazingly by the charity Head to Toe. So they've provided lots of fun. We now have over 300 books in the library. So there's a really good selection to choose from on lots of different topics. So our wonderful volunteer, Sue, she runs the library and she's there on Thursdays between 9 and 11. So you're welcome to come then to browse through the selection of the books. So they are in the garden room at the Chichester Autism Centre. If you can't come at that time, then if you let us know ahead of time, you can come on other days or times, but we just need to make sure that the room's available for you to come and have a look at the books. So you can just give us a call to let us know you're coming. So Sue has categorised all the books and put sticky labels on them to show with a key to show which books might be best for different people, so their kind of target audience. So you can come along and look through the bookshelves. We've also got a library catalogue that you can flick through that's got an up-to-date list of all the books that we've got. So Sue always makes sure that's up to date. And what you do is you just fill in a little card that we've got with some of your details and the book details, pop it into the little withdrawal box, and then you can keep your book for 3 weeks. If you do want to have it for longer, you can request an extension. You just need to contact Sue directly. She's got some cards in the library as well. And then if you can't come to the Chichester Autism Centre, and if you're sort of based in Peterborough, then we do also have an online library. So you can find that by going to www.librarything.com/catalogue/class_clinic. I hope I got that right. And you can have a look through the list of books on there. And if you find one that you like, you just need to email us on our Class Clinic email address, which is classclinic@cpft.nhs.uk, to let us know you'd like to withdraw a book. And yeah, we're always accepting of any book donations and recommendations. We have a sheet here for any recommendations that you've got, and you can also withdraw books today. We've brought our stuff with us. So yeah, feel free to have a look at the selection we've brought today. Thank you.
I'm conscious I've done some speaking today, but not actually introduced myself. So my name's Ben. I'm one of the clinical psychologists from the Class Clinic. And what I was going to talk to you about today is our PPI groups. That's the Patient and Public Involvement Group. The group was put together at the back end of 2021, when we were starting to think about how we can co-produce and collaborate with our service users to develop the services that we provide. And we're thinking about all different aspects of the service. So we're thinking about pre-diagnosis, point of diagnosis and post-diagnosis. We want input from people at each point. So what we do with the PPI group is we just ask people who've been through our services, where anybody who's been through class and received a diagnosis, to let us know that they're interested in coming back and talking to us about a topic. Just send me your email. I'll keep it on one of our databases, and then what I'll do periodically is just send out an email to say we've got this project running on ... topic. A couple of the topics that we've done before have been looking at the reports that we write. We've looked at some of the videos, as Andrea mentioned, and produced new versions of those. We've looked at our patient experience questionnaire. So we ask people to come along and advise us on how we can change things, what we can do, maybe look at some of the wording, the phrasing that we're using to make sure it's accessible, acceptable, and make sure things are as good as possible as they can be. There's no minimum commitment at all. All we do is just ask that you provide us your email address so we can let you know when things crop up. For people that do take part, we do pay people for their time. So we do pay at a rate of £10 an hour for everybody that takes part in the PPI groups, because we want to recognise the contribution that autistic people are making to our service. So that is available if anybody is here today. I know some people are here today who have been part of PPI groups in the past. Just let me know, or one of the other people from class know. We can pop your email and name down, and then I can get in touch with you when we've got projects that crop up. Pretty much it from me. What I'm going to do now is just turn to some of the questions. What I'll do, I might pick out people in the group, shall we? So I've got a question for Safe Soulmates. So I'm scanning around the room. Lovely. All right. So you mentioned earlier that you have fewer female members than male. Do you have any insight as to why that is? We might just coming forward a little just for people online, then we can.
Yes, many reasons. Lizzie will be able to talk a bit about that as well, but probably because we're friendship and dating, so perhaps more men want to join for a relationship. Women, I don't know what Lizzie thinks, but women often want friendship first, and maybe parents are a little bit worried about the dating side of things. So there's a whole myriad of reasons why, but what do you think, Lizzie?
Yeah, I think the same. I think it's really like friendship first. I think that's what it is.
But we do we have so what I forgot to say before was that we do a Zoom meeting with everyone. So when people get in touch with us via their social worker, social prescriber, any themselves, we meet on Zoom, then we send paperwork to do, we ask for character references, and we see ID. So it's a very safe way for people to meet each other, and then they can communicate. People communicate in WhatsApp groups, in person, on Zoom. So it is, if people are worried, you needn't be. It's the safest way of meeting for women to meet other women, and men if they want to chat to men as well. Who we only have lovely men, so it's all very lovely.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And voiceability is a question for yourself, so I know just a good times. Just a question for voiceability. Sorry, it's what is the route for accessing your services? Do you mind just coming forward and explain to my people as well?
Essentially, anyone can refer themselves, or the services can refer the person. So, for example, when it's advocacy to do with the Mental Health Act, nurses can refer the person, for example. But essentially, anyone can refer themselves. We have a helpline, we have a central number, and we have online on the website. There's a self-referral form as well.
Thank you very much. So the next question we've got is a bit more open, and it'd be great for anybody who has any knowledge of this area to chip in. So it's, are there any organisations that are here today that are aware of life coaching or life coaches available specifically for autistic individuals to help manage everyday cognitive and behavioural challenges related to autism? It's a bit of an open one.
I actually suggest a Luminate. It's probably one of the best to approach.
Love it. So that's Illuminate, is that IL?
Yeah, I know.
Because I don't want to spell it out, I'm asking you to. Yeah, so Illuminate would be a good organisation to get in touch with. So anybody else? So free to be made. Two, not word two. Got you. Fantastic. All right. And then another question here is, will the live stream be available afterwards for in-person attendees? It'll be available.
It's recorded,
Yes. It's recorded. So look, we've got the online questions, but I know everybody's here today in the room, and I just wanted to check briefly if there's any questions from anybody here in the room today that they wanted to ask to any of the other organisations. Yes.
It's small comments, questions.
Okay.
One, and actually really enjoyed the present.
Okay.
I guess it's a routine, but it just wasn't what it is. It wasn't just stop playing. So on one level, you could say it's a radicalised existing place. But it's going to save the planet. The other thing is, it's really nice to be in this world. But accessing services, someone who finds it difficult to fill in forms, difficult to relate to people. It's almost impossible to imagine accessing any of the services that there's a wall against it. You see this here, but I don't think I'm alone. It's like you live in a different world to mine.
Absolutely, I completely understand, and I think accessibility is something I know that at class we think a lot about when we have. Yeah.
Sorry. Just to go from what that lady said, I'm visually impaired, as the people team fully aware, and just to say to the other charities and organisations here, a lot of stuff's online, and apparently a lot of autistic people do not often have got visual problems. So what yourselves and I mean, you were great, you did accommodate me very well, but obviously I can't use the internet, I can't read the books, so I do feel a little bit isolated. I don't know, also this lady was saying, you know, people also might find filling out forms difficult anyway. So just yourself and the other organisations, is there something that they're putting into play to make sure that people like themselves don't get left out, basically, or more help? Yeah.
I think those two are really, really useful points. And I think what I'm hoping that from today's event, with all of us in the room, and there will be other resources we've already found about today that people aren't referred here today, like Illuminate, for example, is that we do start talking more about, well, how accessible is your service? Or if I have somebody in my service who might be visually impaired, but they really want to access that support that you offer, how can you better support them, and so on. But if it's literally stopping people from the word go, that there are all these things out there, but I cannot actually imagine myself even being able to press the button or pick up the phone to do it, how do we make that more accessible for people from the word go? So there is something I think about all of us offering services here to be having those conversations, so that actually it's great that they're all there, but well, are we serving people properly? And maybe we're not. So thank you both for raising those points.
That's why I would say today, like that lady said, it's fantastic. Yeah. It's giving you the opportunity to listen. Yeah. For a bit too much information, or a bit like, oh, now I can go around and pick up leaflets and take back to friends who read or wires, and take my time and find out more and absorb the information in a way that I can actually understand. But internet's not so good, but email's not so bad. I can zoom in or I can make the phone talk to me and stuff like this. But just to make it more, since diagnosis, I've found it. I mean, it was great for the post-diagnostic support that I had from you guys, but everything else, like there's so much of a minefield going on. It's like, how do you access it? And so it's simpler for people that find it hard to do those things. Great. Thank you very much.
I think it's a wider question though, because I think there'll be the sort of more standard accessibility issues that we need to all address. But I think there'll be groups of people who are not represented there at all. And I think that's the other thing. We need to think about people who don't have a fixed place of abode, for example, people who are maybe struggling with alcohol and substance use. There might be people in criminal justice, etc. So there will be people or minority ethnic groups, etc. We need to think more broadly about how accessible our services are, I think. So we could get stuck on one or two, and we really need to think. It takes all of us to think that bigger picture, I think, at the end of the day. But today feels to me a bit like when we started off the day, that this is the one day event, but we really wanted this to be the beginning of the conversations, and the fact that we're recording it, the resources are going to be there, we're going to add in the frequently asked questions so that people can go back, because we do understand there was a lot of bang, bang, bang kind of 5-minute, presentations.
and to take all of that in as loads, but it just was a great opportunity for us to pull everything together and then let's present it, because that's the other thing, we'll need help. PPI group involvement. How do we present that information? How's it going to be helpful for you to find that information? Some of it might be visual, audio, it might be online, but it might not suit everybody. So we're going to need some help. And how do we make sure all of these services, all of these resources are as known about and as accessible to as many people as possible? So we'd like your help with that. And this to me today has been a great start to do all of that. So yeah,
It's given me an idea for next year. API groups come on and help us to put this together next year. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add as well that stood at the library stand earlier, someone said, do we have any audio books or like a list of podcasts, which I never thought of. But actually, I've written it down and I'll recommend that.
Right.
So it's such a definitely.
The psychological skills service, ESS, talk about the central connection group in Peterborough, in Boston. Is there one online as well?
Sensory connection group from PSS. Is there going to be a group online as well as in person? Because it's only, you said it's going to be in Peterborough.
Yeah.
So the sensory connection group, will it be online as well? So it's just going to be face to face. Yeah. Yeah. So at the moment that would be practical in Peterborough. And then.
So because there's a
and
pilot.
potentially, yeah. Exactly. Thank you. I saw somebody else's hand.
About the Ixion research centre guy, was talking about the research. Yeah, you were talking about the research you're doing with music therapy and providing music.
So we are currently getting ready to launch this study. We're currently recruiting schools to take part. We do have our website. Actually, where I would advise you to go to learn more about this is if you just find our ARC Twitter, at ARC Cambridge. We have a post on there which is about recruitment to the study and how you can find out more. And if you're interested, if you come see me afterwards, I can actually give you the email of the lead researcher.
Just looking, any other questions in the room today?
Yeah. So I think what we've set out the day to finish at around 3. So please do mill around, go now. Now that you've heard from everybody who's presented, go and see them at their different stalls. Please help yourself to more refreshments and so on. I'm going to ask Caroline to come and say a final word. Before Caroline does though, can I please ask you to clap for Katie, who's done the most amazing job organising today. With a
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Caroline Nightingale. I'm the service manager within CPFT, managing the learning disability and neurodevelopmental services, of which class forms part of my portfolio. And big mistake I made earlier was when everybody started talking, I seated myself right at the back. So I now have a collection of pens, of chocolate wrappers in my dress. So hopefully if you haven't had the opportunity, go back and talk to people on the stalls. And yes, there's lots of goodies at the back. So what can I say? What a fantastic event. I want to thank everyone for coming, and to everyone who had stands, gave a talk. I won't name everybody individually because I was always taught in an interview, never say there's 6 of one or 7 of another, and then they ask you to name them and you can't remember them. So thank you so much. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank class. the class team that I have the privilege of working alongside. And I know that the team have in some way or another helped develop this day. And Janine said it in particular, thank you to Katie for organising everybody. I was watching out for all my emails from Katie, what do I need to do next? What do I need to go and buy now? So take the opportunity to go around, talk to everybody. There's tea and coffee, squash. I think there's still some cupcakes left. So thank you so much for coming.
Oh, has it gone a bit weird?
Yeah.
Oh, my mouse has gone tiny.
It's like it's on the screen. Maybe go on like this.
No. Bye, everyone.
Wonderful.